and get started. But if at all you feel like answering to that question, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Again, welcome to the space. Today we'll be talking about estate planning. We'll talk about wills, trust, and healthcare surrogate for generational security. I'm going to take this moment just to introduce our moderator for tonight. Her name is Carol L. Grant, and Carol has over 25 years of experience in legal services. She's also focused on estate planning, probate, and guardianship. She's also a former registered nurse, and in that, she brings compassion and real perspective into her legal practice. She's dedicated to helping families make confident and informed decisions. So tonight I welcome Carol, who is also a JWOF member, to moderate tonight's conversation. Go ahead, Carol.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome again. Thank you so much. This is an awesome decision that you're making. So tonight you are going to learn about the basics of estate planning, financial planning, how you can possibly avoid a guardianship or probate. But what's different about tonight is that we don't just want to fill you up with knowledge and education, although that's not bad, but we want you to be able to take action at the end of this 1 hour call. You're going to be given an assignment, so we'll know that not only did you hear, be doers, not just hearers of the word, but also doers. So at this time, I'm going to introduce the panelists. So one of the panelists is a friend of mine, Colette Small, Esquire, and Colette is one of Florida's few board-certified elder law attorney, and I believe she practices in Dade, Miami, and Palm Beach, and probably even beyond. She's a former chair of the elder law section of the Florida Bar. Yeah, and she's also a marathon finisher. So not only will she do an excellent job working on your case, she runs. So Colette, you'll do the job well because you are a runner. She's also a former banking executive. So again, she knows about the money. And I think what I like mostly as I'm reading this is she's deeply committed to guiding families through legacy and long-term care decisions. So deeply committed. Remember that. All right. So the next young lady is attorney Georgia Williams, and Georgia and we both went to UF. So she holds an LLM. So that means these people in here, they are extremely smart. So she's focused on protecting assets, legacy for future generations. She has deep expertise in wills, trust, probate, guardianships, and trust administration. Active leader with the Florida Bar's real property, probate, and trust section. I mean, I can go on and on about these two ladies, but yeah, you can always look them up. Next is Dr. Lizette. Dr. Lizette, I was introduced to her through JWOF. She is awesome. JWOF's sister has a great sense of humor. 30 years of leadership across entrepreneurship, higher education, project management. I mean, what I read and I'm like, oh my gosh, owner of a financial service and education agency focused on transforming financial outcomes for middle America. So she'll help us get from the bottom to the middle and possibly to the top. So we're excited to have all of our panelists with us tonight. So one of the questions that, and you can go ahead and put your answer in the chat. Where are you right now in building and managing that money? Very, very important. So go ahead and put your answer in the chat. I mean, are you just getting by? Are you stable but not growing? Are you building with a plan, right? Do you even know where your money is, right? Do you know, is it growing? So those are some of the questions that you have to think about, and Dr. Lizette is going to help us to bring to the forefront tonight. So let's move on. And let's engage with Dr. Lisette. Are you ready, Dr. Lisette?
I'm here. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Very good. So we're going to build it right, create, protect, and grow your money first. So let me ask you, because with the way the economy is, I want to ask you right now, where do people unintentionally lose the most money that they don't even realize that they're losing?
That's a great question. That's a loaded question, but I'm going to tell you the main part is because people have no idea where their money is, and they don't have an idea of what their money is doing. We often depend on whoever works with us, especially in our workplace, and hope that we know what our money is doing. We really just need to have a dedicated team of people, a dedicated financial professional, a dedicated tax person, attorneys actually working as a group. It's not, I don't, it is definitely unintentional, but there is also a shift because we are moving from a time that people were more comfortable, that when they finished their time at work, they were guaranteed that they were going to have funds. And it's a crossover right now. Some people were in that era, and it's really a shock to the system that they do not have what they thought they would have, guaranteed funds. So we have to find out from people, who is your professional? Is it your plan administrator at your workplace? Because that's a whole different category of person there. So I want to say unintentionally, if we're saying it unintentionally, is a big surprise at the end or close to the end when they don't realize what they have because they don't know their own portfolio. But guess what? I am not blaming them to not know their own portfolio. I'm blaming the persons who work with them. And that's what I'm going to stop at that question. I'm pretty sure it's going to tie over. But basically, we should be working continuously with somebody who wants to work for us, who understands what we're doing and understands how we understand what they're doing. So basically, a great educator.
Very good. So then what would be one of the biggest financial mistake people make that's because of that mistake, they're now not able to build any wealth. They're waiting for mom to die.
Well, yes. It ties into the same thing, but I don't, the word mistake for me is a little bit interesting. It's again the trust. It's a trust that they've put into the people who have their money. So it's not really a mistake. It's like they've been sold, they've been brainwashed, they have a fear as well. A lot of people come out with a lot of fear when it comes to money. And honestly, I can tell you upfront that I understand why. It's when people are explaining their portfolios, their 401ks, their insurance policies, it's over your head. It's like over your head, and it's easy to sell because fear sells. And once you use the fear to sell, people will buy. But at the time that they actually need these funds, they realize it's not what they thought it was. The truth is that if you honestly, and I come back to the same thing again, if you don't have a financial professional that's on your side and truly on your side, that you can be as vulnerable as ever, and we can understand, okay, that I can see that I might have to slow this conversation down a little bit. Let's just concentrate on this part, continue on this part. If we don't have those people checking back in on us, it's a mistake, but it's not the mistake is that of the professional who is supposed to be guiding and protecting people towards their financial goal. And another thing that happens is that we have our professionals segmented. We have our attorneys, we have our tax persons, we have our financial professionals, none communicating with the rest. You've always heard people saying, I'm going to talk to my person, I'm going to talk to my team. You need to have a team because most people have a tax person, most people have an insurance person or a financial professional, and most people have an attorney of some kind. Nobody's speaking to each other.
Let me
The
ask
benefit.
you,
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, but let's just kind of just get personal and dig a little bit deeper. So I am 35. I have no money. I have nothing planned for retirement, right? Yeah, it's 30 years away or whatever. What are some of the things that we can do to start actually building this generational wealth?
Well, first we have to start off by going through a full financial analysis with this person. How much do they bring in? How much do they spend? And how do they spend? What is their goal? A lot of people think they have more time than they have, and we have to make sure that we understand that our monies are in different places. Our people have monies in an area at that 35 that are actually at risk. Are you still in an area that you could have money at risk, or should you be doing more protection and growth? We have to look at each portfolio and see where you are. Most of it is what you're bringing in. We have a lot of people who, as this is Jamaican Women of Florida, who's hosting this, who come here at 35, 40 and do well. And we have some people who don't, because we have different things that we bring here to this country that we believe is the same here. And they have time. Oh, I just got here. Every time you spend money or you get money or you change money, we have to be saying, how much can you put away? What area will we put it in? If we put it in more risk, if we put it in a portfolio that just grows, do we have it protected by different things, with the tax laws? What tax things do you have? I have a portfolio right now that she's doing well, but she's put herself in a huge tax area. She has not worked with an attorney, and she has not worked with a tax person for all of the properties she's bought. She should have been working very closely with an attorney to make sure that, because you think tax, you think monies, you think, okay, you just need the banker or you need that. The truth is the portfolio that we need to work with each other. But we have to say, how much do we put away and where do we put it away, and your risk tolerance. There are so many choices out there. And the reason why we don't get access to these choices is that people push what they have in their portfolio. So they're selling apples. Apples is the best thing for everything. But that's true. We have a whole fruit basket. And unless we are really working well with people, and I say this all the time because I started on this side of life, I'm from higher ed, and that's where I thought I was always going to be, until I realized how much we're missing, how much education and how much it is to learn it. Why it's so overinflated is something that upsets me all the time. It's not hard, but people have to know how to break it down. And I think a part of the confusion is also built in. Buy and leave that person alone. And that's the part that my passion is changing it, not just in the pocket, but for generations to come. It's in your head. This is how you speak to your children. That's how your children speak to their children, and it just passes on. Generational wealth is just not just the money you built up, but the education that you pass on. And this is what I'm hoping to change for Middle America as we go along.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that for someone to actually start, they first need to be able to sit down with a financial advisor and lay out a plan, almost like conduct an inventory of what they have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, one of the things I've heard is before you start investing, you really need to have some emergency money set aside, because we're talking about building, protecting your legacy. The washing machine breaks down, you don't have money saved, so now you have to use your credit card. Speak to us about the amount or the average amount that we should set aside for emergency.
Well, emergency comes in different ways, and it's, the biggest one is usually on the health side. I'm not a big emergency fund using those words type of stuff. I like to use the word opportunity funds. So whatever comes, it's something, is a word that has changed it for me, has changed it for my clients, because we don't want to be living in emergency mode. So it's always building to have these funds. And I cannot say what the number is, but what I can tell you is that you can put monies away for the washing machine and stuff, but there are health issues. There are products and processes and also that can cover those things as we put them in different products and policies or whatever that can take care of health emergencies. Health is one of the biggest things that wipe out funds and wipe out a whole lot of stuff. Emergency funds, yes, we can work on your budgeting. We can put that together to make sure that you have that for your fridge or your roof and stuff like that. But there's bigger issues around that really is a problem. Healthcare is not what it used to be, and we have to put ourselves in positions that we can also take care of that if we have living emergencies. A lot of people think about financial professionals on the debt side. Living is a lot more interesting, very interesting. And that's where we have to say, how do you take care of yourself? How do we have situations or products or policies or whatever it is that works for us in emergencies? And yes, we also work on the budget side, because it is not, nowhere is it wise to be putting all your money out of your reach, obviously, but we have to make sure that we understand what works for what, where, how, and why. And each one is different. Each portfolio is different. Each age is different. And it's weird to find out now, because I'm one of those that I've found out over the past 10, 12 years of just, you know, just all that we were missing. I'm a four-time business major, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what got me here. I was like, if I have never heard about it. It's not that I'm everything like this, but we have so many other people doing great things in their field. I said, we have to change it. We have to change it through here and understand that we can do much more with any little that we have towards our future. It is just having the person who truly believes in you and truly believes in changing what you have and listening to you. We don't have a time thing like, okay, we have to rush, we have to get this done today, or anything like that. No, we have to change it. And that's where my passion is. But the emergency funds, we work with you throughout your entire budget. We put those funds for the machine, and we put those funds together to show you what happens if the bigger emergencies of life happens.
It's funny you said passion, because that was one of the words I was going to use to describe you, that you exude this passion for helping, our people, women, men, to be able to get to that next level. Now, is the problem when we talk about money, right? So I know I grew up with this poverty mindset where my mom would say, turn off the light. You mean I have no money to pay FPL. And so you grow up with this lack mindset. How do we change that as women, right? And a lot of women are single mothers that are taking care of their children without fathers. So, but how do we not only change our own mindset about money, and then make sure that we give our children a rich mindset, right? Not a poverty scarcity mindset.
Well, yeah, it all has to do with the self-talk to me. Like, I really believe that what we say will happen. What we believe will happen. And I know it seems like that is a simple statement. My son last week, he's the one that loves to save, and you say, you need to buy a pair of sneakers for yourself. I don't have any money. And I said, and then he stops. I said, start again. He's like, well, I'm not budgeted for that right now, so I'm going to think about buying it another time. Because I stopped them right dead in their track. Do not put the poverty mindset, even in your works, as you said, you know what, I'm going to have the Lord say, give me a direction. Try to make it positive, because honestly, it changes it. Yes, you're not $10, $15 richer immediately, but you're more positive and your mind's clear differently. And I understand when you say, turn off the light, you think me have money, all right, when you don't have this, when you don't have that. No, we have to be careful how we speak. I am blessed to live right across the street from some Orthodox Jews, and they are serious educators. Me and the husband, and we're always in his garage. They're sitting, and the wife says, "I'm going to bed with leaving you," because they just teach you how their ear hears differently because of how they speak to their children and everything all the way up, and how they spend funds. We have a tendency more to be a more fashionable people, and a lot of stuff like that. We could definitely put our monies away together and say, and he would say, well, what if you considered buying this house, or you considered always something that has a great investment? What if you did 10 of those? And I hear him talking to the children, and I'm like, and they're actually thinking about it, because that's all they hear. How to save, how to do it. And it really, I know it sounds like a petty type of answer, but it is something if we think it. Do we need 4 shades of brown shoes? And not maybe we do. I don't know. I'm the worst person to ask that. I'm more a sneakers person. But I just want to say, do we need that? Can we think about what our future is? And that's what it is. It's a mindset, that I think that we say we don't need it. We're going to speak positively, and we're going to put our funds together. And we're going to dedicate ourselves to the funds that we want to put away. Don't say, oh, you know what? Well, I'm going on that trip anyway. Next month I will save another one. I have to go there. I have to get a new dress. Dedicate yourself to the monies you're putting together, small, big, whatever, however it is, and continue. And once you see compounding or growing, you will understand that it's a practice like anything else. It's a mindset. It's just like how you have to work out and to make sure your muscle stays the way it is. It's the same way that we have to do with money. And we have to, and it's our money. Remember, when you're putting it away, it's ours still. So whether you have it on you or you put it away, it's your money, and you feel so much freer. And the more money you have, even the better. People always say you don't need that much money. Well, I know I need millions of dollars because I have a project in mind that is going to help a whole different group of people that I really have a heart for, which is the hearing impaired and deaf people who I need to get into every single classroom in Jamaica to be a part of it, to be a part of the community. So it's going to take a lot of money. So if you don't want a lot of money you have, please send it here because I have a big project that I need to get done.
So Dr. Lisette, I mean, really, it's almost everything that was in my head. I wanted to talk about debt, and I mean, how many pair of shoes do you need, right? How many pair of dresses, the whole thing. So just to wrap up, give us, just kind of summarize, what would you want to see us do as a result of this session?
Well, when I heard the session and I recognized there were going to be it was with more attorneys. I said, listen, there's so much more because we are all working together on the same thing, right? We're touching the same people. But lately, I've had my clientels are from 15 days old to all the way up to the golden years. But I'm really having a passion and understanding for people who are going into retirement, who believes it's done. It's done. I have my money. I don't know. I'm going to have to skim it. I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know how that's going to happen. You need to be speaking with us. There's so much more. This is the time when millions of people are retiring now. You know, the baby boomers are going out, and their biggest fear is outliving their money. That's the biggest fear that they have right now. We need to speak with them. This is at a time when people think, okay, this is too expensive now at that age to be buying long-term care and stuff like that. But you would be surprised what these monies can do that was never brought to us, that can cover long-term care and be used as long-term care, can have income for life for you, and if you pass away, for your spouse. There are just so many things that we should never give up at any point to get an understanding of what your money can do and where your money is. At no point. At absolutely no point.
That is just so amazing. So we need to take action. We need to call you. So I'm going to ask you to please put your contact information in the chat so that if anyone here needs your services, they can reach out to you. And thank you so much for your passion. It's evident that you care. So we love that, and we appreciate you. All right, so before we move on to Attorney Georgia Williams, let's ask this question. What would happen if someone passes away with no will? So that's no last will and testament, no trust, and they have assets, but there are no named beneficiaries. What do you think will happen? You can go ahead and put your answer in the chat. And someone said great information. Thank you again, Dr. Lisette. So let's see, let's see. Someone passes away with no will. Let me see if there are any answers here. The state decides after a lot of legal fees. I love that. Someone says probate. Very, very good. So, all right. So now I was going to say Dr. Williams. You are Dr. Williams. Dr. Georgia Williams, Esquire. Let's just start with myth or fact, right? And I hear this all the time. You know, I want to do estate planning because I know if I die, the state is going to get my money. Is that a myth or is that fact?
So in
Short
general,
answer, Esquire.
it's a myth. Okay.
So that's a myth.
Yes, very myth, definite myth.
Okay. And the other one is people, they think estate planning is one and done. So is that a myth? You get your estate planning done and you put it in a drawer and you set it and you forget it.
Absolute myth.
Absolute myth. Very, very,
Also
very,
a myth.
also a myth. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about one of the areas that I know that you are an expert at. So let's talk about a will, a trust. What do you even need a will? Do you need a trust? And really, what's the purpose of either one?
Okay, so I will start how I always start, and I say that, everybody on this Zoom has an estate plan, right? Everybody has an estate plan. It's either going to be an estate plan that you have created by decisions that you have made and you've written down, or if you have not made those decisions, the state of Florida has an estate plan for you. And so when you say, do you need a will? My answer is going to be yes, because I want to decide who gets to manage my affairs after I die, who gets what, how do they get it? So my general sentiment is yes, you need a will. There are certain circumstances where your estate plan matches what the Florida intestacy statutes provide, and intestacy means you do not have a will, so you are going by the Florida scheme of distribution. But the benefits of a will over intestacy, even when the scheme matches, is number one, you get to decide who your personal representative is, right? So if you have 5 kids, who do you want to come in and file if a probate is necessary and make the decisions and collect the assets and pay the creditors? You get to decide. In a will, you get to decide that that person doesn't have to post a bond, where that person would otherwise be exposed to a bond at the court. In a will, especially if you have minor children, you get to decide, you get to indicate if something were to happen to me and there is no other natural guardian or parent to take care of this child, these are the persons I want the court to appoint. And so the will has specific benefits that you don't get when you leave it up to the Florida statutes to decide who gets what. So yes, I would say a will is important and everybody should get a will. I'm going to throw in another myth here that people think estate planning is for old people, and it's not. If you are, I've had fights over unfortunate deaths at the age of 20, and the person has no child, there's no children involved, and mom and dad are divorced and hate each other. Well, guess what? If you don't have documents that say, I want this person to make decisions for me, I want this person to be my personal representative, and mom and dad hate each other, then we are going to end up in court fighting over who gets the right to make decisions. So it's important to have a will. It's important when you're 18 and you're in college and you're away from your parents to dictate who you want to make decisions for you. It's important at 20, 30, 40, and 85, right? Everybody should have a will. The question now of whether you need a trust or not is a question that really, I think, requires you to sit down with an estate planning attorney, let them look at your assets, see what's going on, and then have a conversation. I do estate planning. I also do litigation and probate. And I think the estate planning attorneys do an excellent job of marketing trust. They're like, everybody needs a trust, get a trust, you need a trust, you need a trust. And I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. I don't think everybody needs a trust. Oftentimes what I see in my practice is that even though people create trusts, it's really the funding of a trust that's important, right? A trust is an empty vessel that you have created once you sign an agreement. And so you need to transfer assets into that trust in order for the trust to govern, right? So I will get people that go to this estate planning attorney, they create a trust, and then they come to me because they need a change. And I'm saying, okay, so what's in the trust? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, wait, so what does the trust hold? Does it hold real property, bank accounts? And they're like, no, I thought it just goes in there. And I'm like, no, there's nothing in the trust because you didn't put anything in the trust. So you've created this trust. It has nothing in it. I can't tell. Typically, when you're looking at a trust, you don't know what's in the trust. You can tell what's in the trust by the actual documentation, the bank account statement, the deed to the real property. That's how you tell what the trust owns. It's not necessarily you're not able to tell on its face what is actually inside this trust held by the trust. So I think that that's what's important. If you're not going to manage the trust, respect the trust entity as a separate entity from your individual self, then you don't need a revocable trust, right? If you only have homestead property, you may or may not need, and a retirement account, a revocable trust may be more than what you need. So it really requires a conversation of what you have and what you want to have happen to say if you need a revocable trust or not. I think probate has become a bad word in our society, but I utilize probate to my benefit all the time. And so I want to bust that myth as well, that probate is some bad thing that everybody should avoid, and that there's like thousands of dollars getting paid to attorneys that otherwise wouldn't if you didn't have a probate. You know, again, the same estate planning bar that I'm part of, they do a good job of pumping trusts, and they do a good job of making probate seem horrible. And so it's not. It's not. There's benefits to probate that you can't get outside of a probate structure.
So before we get a little bit more into probate, what would be some benefits of having a trust for the persons that should have one?
So the top advantages of a revocable trust, right? And that's mostly what we're going to focus on in this session. You have revocable trusts, you have irrevocable trusts. If we're talking about irrevocable trusts, we're talking a more sophisticated tax planning structures that we're doing. So for most people, the large swath of people, we're talking about a revocable trust that you can amend, you can revoke, you can change, you could put assets in, you could take assets out. That trust mirrors your person for tax purposes, meaning that you have the social security number is the number that's used to identify the trust. What that means is that during your life, your revocable trust and yourself is the same tax person, and it changes after death. So that's a little bit about a background. Benefits of a revocable trust. Number one is probate avoidance, right? If you put the assets in the trust, if the assets are transferred into the trust, those assets will not be subject to a probate administration in order to be administered. Okay, so that is the number one, advantage of a revocable trust. Another advantage is incapacity planning, right? So today I have a bank account. I am the only person on that bank account, right? If something were to happen to me, I become incapacitated. There are a few options. If you do not have any documents in place, if you don't have a power of attorney in place, then you're going to end up going to court because someone needs to be able to pay my bills. And so if you have these assets, now my bank account is in my revocable trust. If I am unable to transact as a trustee and serve the role as trustee of my trust, I have provided for a successor trustee, and I have provided for provisions to determine when I am incapacitated. And if those provisions are triggered, a successor trustee comes in and they're able to manage the assets that are inside of the trust. So it allows a smooth transition if I were to become incapacitated, so that you can continue to manage my affairs without having to involve the court.
Okay, sorry.
And then one more advantage of a revocable trust is privacy. Right. And so a will, I have to tell people, a will has to be deposited with the court, and that is public record. Anybody could go down to the courthouse and see anybody's will that was administered in that county. A trust is a private document. It typically does not get filed unless there is some sort of litigation going on. So those are the advantages of a revocable trust.
Right. And I'm sure there are many more. A good question. I just happened to look at the chat, and you talked about some of the benefits of a probate. And this particular person said, of course, we hear avoid a probate at all costs. So can you give us a few benefits of actually first explain what a probate is and then give us a few benefits?
Okay. So a probate is the process of administering assets that are in an individual's name at death. Okay. And so the probate process it starts with do you have a will or not? If you have a will, then it is a testate probate. If you do not have a will, it's intestate, and the disposition of your assets are governed by the Florida statutes. And so you have a probate, you open the probate. Typically, the form of probate that I'm going to describe is the formal administration, the long process. You petition the court to appoint a personal representative. In other states, they call them executor. Those are both synonyms. So we call it a personal representative in Florida. Other places, it's an executor. That person gets appointed, and they get the powers to act on the decedent's behalf, to marshal assets and notify creditors. The probate process is marshaling assets, notifying creditors, because your creditors are entitled to get paid from your assets before they get to your beneficiaries. So you marshal the assets, you notify creditors. The creditors have to step up. They have to file a claim if they want to get paid. You look at the claims that are filed, make the assessments, and then after you've satisfied creditor claims, then the balance goes to the beneficiaries. And so that's the probate process. And the process is required for assets that are in an individual person's name at death. So the benefits of probate is, remember, so now creditors can get paid from your assets, right, before they go to the beneficiaries. One thing to keep in mind is that a revocable trust still is subject to your creditors, right? By using a revocable trust, you avoid probate. You don't necessarily have to file a probate, but your creditors are entitled to get paid from your revocable trust assets. So a revocable trust does not create creditor avoidance. All right. So now if we're in a probate and you have what is called exempt property. So with respect to exempt property, it's 2 cars and household furniture and furnishings up to $20,000. Those things are exempt from creditors, right? And if you have certain individuals, if you have a spouse, dependent children, so you're able to file a probate and get those assets exempt, get those passed out to your family members without those assets being subject to any creditor claims, right? That's one benefit of probate. The biggest benefit of probate that I use often is the creditor window. Okay, so in Florida, creditors have 2 years to step up and say, I need to get paid, right? So the time window is 2 years from date of death. So you can have somebody's dead for a year, a creditor can open a probate and say, listen, Georgia owed me money, I want to get paid. So that's the window. When you open a formal administration probate, you are obligated to publish a notice to creditors in a local paper, notifying people that the decedent has passed away. And then after that moment, there is a 3-month window that unknown creditors have to file claims, right? And you're obligated to give notice to known creditors. And once you give notice to a known creditor, that creditor has the later of 30 days or the 3-month window, okay? So I'll give you a fact pattern. You have a revocable trust, right? Mom created a revocable trust. It's fully funded. So there are no assets in mom's name at death. But so the kids come to me and they're like, I want to distribute the assets. And I'm like, okay, well, did we know what mom's creditors were? Do we know what creditors she have? No, we don't, because we live in New York. Mom lives here. She managed her own affairs. I don't even know, I don't know all of her assets. In that circumstance, I'm going to recommend we do a probate, because I don't want you to distribute money out of a trust and you've spent that money, right? You go to Jamaica and you buy a piece of land, and then 1 year and 360 days in, the creditor says, hello, I need to get paid. And then you're like, what, the money gone? The money is gone. You will still be obligated, right? So I will say, okay, if we have no idea what the creditor profile looks like, then let's file a probate. Let's file the probate, publish the notice to creditors, so that when that 3-month window runs, we have security that distributing this trust, we are still protected from creditors of mom, and we're not going to have to turn over those funds. So the shortened creditor window is one of the greatest advantages of probate. If you're in a situation where, like off record, I always tell people, like, I'm going to go on all these trips right before I die. If you're in a situation where you have a lot of creditors and a lot of assets, then it's going to be beneficial to get a shortened creditor period so that you can be comfortable passing assets on.
Thank you, Georgia. One of the things I wanted you to touch on, and we're really getting close, but it's so important, is can you briefly talk about homestead and then do your wrap up? So briefly, I know
Okay.
homestead could be like a 2-year
Okay.
class, but just briefly talk about homestead, the importance of not giving it away without, think without a lawyer, and also then do your wrap up for me, please.
Okay. So the key to homestead is if you are married or you have a minor child, you cannot give your homestead away.
And wait a minute, Dr. Georgia, what's a homestead? That's
okay. I'm going to say that. Well, that's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember if you're married or you have a minor child, you can't give your homestead away. All right. Your homestead is what most of us know what homestead is because you get a reduction in your property taxes for your homestead property. That's where you are domiciled. That's where you reside. Okay. So you might have 3 properties in Broward County. You know which one is your homestead. That's the one you're getting that reduction on for property taxes. In Florida, homestead is a reduction in property tax. It's a creditor protection vehicle. Think O.J. Simpson. He left California. He came here. He bought a $4 million house so he can shelter the $4 million from creditors that were chasing him down. And the third thing that homestead is in Florida is devise restricted, which means if you are survived by a spouse or a minor child, you cannot give your homestead away. So those are the 3 features of homestead. What most people care about is the property tax reduction because that's what you have to pay for year to year. But as an estate planning attorney, what I care about is what are we going to do with your homestead? Who can get it? And because of the restrictions that you have, you're not able to give it away. So when you're sitting at home and you haven't seen your husband, since this is Jamaican Women of Florida, you don't know where him there. You don't see him years now. You can't find him. You cannot go and pull a deed offline and give the property to your daughter because you can't find your husband. He's still your husband and he still has rights. And let me tell you, I've represented wayward spouses that just pop up out of the blue because they have rights. A spouse is a spouse is a spouse. An absent spouse is still a spouse. So this is why it's important to go to an attorney and you're not doing it on your own because you cannot give your homestead away. You can if you do certain things, and that's where the planning comes in.
Attorney Williams, I'll ask you to do your wrap up at the end because we want to move on to the next. But I mean, between you and Dr. Lisette, I think we are getting educated tonight. So we're going to move on to the next segment with Attorney Colette Small.
Carl, before you go into the next segment, there are a few questions in the chat. So maybe we can have, I'm not sure if they're for Ms. Williams or who they're for. Do you want me to read them or you want to go ahead and read those? There are a couple that's in there starting at 7:39 p.m.
Wow. We're very busy. Go ahead and read the first one from 7:39 and I'll move up.
Okay, so the first one says, how are interstate and international assets handled as it relates to trust?
So that it depends, right? It depends on where you are, what the state laws provide, or what the international laws have, and whether there's a treaty or not. So it's not something that I would be able to answer in general. But if we're talking about international assets, typically I say that country will govern the property that's cited in that country that's located there. So that's the short answer to that question.
Okay. The other one, go ahead.
No, because this one is related, actually. Does a trust extend to include assets outside of the country?
Generally, I'm going to say no, but it depends, right? It depends on what the country is, what their treaties and the laws provide. Okay. But a note is real property. Usually, real property is governed, but if the real property is in a trust, it will be governed under the trust instrument. But generally, if you have real property in any place, you're typically subject to the laws of the state. You may not necessarily have to probate the property, but real property is treated differently than tangible property.
Very good. Another one, and I think after this we'll move on, I believe, Yvette?
Yes.
Very good. So this last question for this segment, are family members, spouses penalized if an individual passes away without will, trust, or limited assets and they have debt? So I think they're saying, are you liable, responsible?
So no, you're not, you do not have to pay debts for people that for other people, for other family members. You're obligated to pay your debts. You're not obligated to pay anybody else's debts, with caveats that, you know what I mean? If you're a signer on a credit card or something like that, then it's also your debt. So with caveats, the general answer is no, you're not responsible for other people's debts.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Attorney Williams, if you'd put your contact information in the chat, that would be awesome.
Will do. Thanks.
So the next segment, we're talking about protecting your legacy in real life. So if we're in South Florida, we have seniors everywhere. So the question is, and there is a poll, if your loved one becomes incapacitated or ill, would you know exactly what to do? And you can go ahead and answer, and then we'll see what the result is. So
So
your loved one.
we're getting a few responses, Carol, and right now somewhat is at 48%, yes is at 29%, and no is at 26%. But somewhat seems to be moving out in terms of leading.
Very good, very good. So let's have Attorney Colette. Let's talk about what actually happens. Miss Colette? Hold on one second. Did she drop off?
No, she's on mute. Colette, you're on mute.
I am talking away and on mute. Okay, just want to
All
say good
Thank
evening.
you.
Lovely session. Dr. Lisette, I agree with you 100%. We cannot exist in a silo. We all need to work together to make this happen. And I am so happy we're doing that because, Georgia, I'm sure you are there with me. We don't have many clients that look like us. And we're out there building and helping other people build generational wealth. And what about our community? So happy to be invited here and happy to participate. So so what happens if someone becomes incapacitated or a family member becomes sick? And a lot of times people tend to wait to plan as they're getting older, you know, mom, dad's getting older, so we're going to make sure they have things in place. But that's a common mistake, is waiting, because there's really no time to start crisis planning. People assume they have a lot of times until you don't. Today I came from a funeral of a friend of mine, 46 years old, and she passed away. So, you know, we have things, sudden strokes, accidents, dementia diagnosis, hospitalization could really leave people scrambling. And that also, apart from the crisis that it creates when you're doing this, it's also get very expensive when you're trying to do crisis planning. So you always want to think ahead and know what to do. And there's definitely certain things that you can do to create a plan before you actually need it.
So as an elder law guardianship attorney, we're talking about creating a plan. So what are some things or some documents or tools that we need to have in place for incapacity planning?
All right. There is a power of attorney. It's a common document, but it's a financial document, and you allow a trusted person who you pick to handle your financial affairs as well as your legal matters. And if you become incapacitated, even if it's temporarily, and you're not able to attend to your financial matters, this person could pay your bills so you don't run into further problems, manage your accounts, they can handle your properties, and address benefit issues, and often prevents the need for a guardianship. So that talks about your stuff, your money, your assets, but also talking about you as a person and your healthcare. There is a healthcare surrogate designation document that allows, again, someone that you trust to make medical decisions for you if you're unable to do so yourself. And it ensures that your doctors and your healthcare providers know who has the authority to speak on your behalf. And also, Georgia spoke extensively about trust a trust, again, you could put directions in your trust as well. Now, you notice I mentioned avoiding a guardianship, and I will go into that in just a bit. But it's very important, I think, for everybody. It doesn't matter, I think anyone over the age of 18, really to at least have the basic documents like a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate in place. Because if you don't, there are a rigid set of rules that the Florida statute has as to who can make these decisions for you. And it might be somebody who you chat to for years who is now in your business making decisions for you. It could be your husband who you're separated from for decades now making health decisions and telling the doctors, giving medical advice, and he has a plug, he could decide if that plug gets pulled. So seriously, it's really something that you want to do. And if you don't have these documents, I mentioned the rigid statutes, and there's also a process called guardianship. If you think probate's a scary word, guardianship is a scary word. Because probate, you're already dead and gone, right? It's a family that's fighting. Guardianship, you're alive and people are fighting, and people who don't, maybe you wouldn't pick to be the person who makes decisions for you, are making decisions for you. And those people have to have an attorney, and they're using your money to pay all of this. These are your assets that are paying for this. So I encourage you, it's not very expensive, it's not very cumbersome to have at least those two documents in place. And you are here now picking who makes those decisions for you if you become incapacitated, and you're picking who makes your money decisions for you. And you want to give that really good thought, right? Just don't fill out a form and check a box. Give good thought as to who that person is, and make sure it's not just your oldest child because you feel compelled to do that, but it's someone who is on the same level as you. They know what you want to have happen, and they're able to execute that if and when the time comes to do that.
So let's talk a little bit more about a power of attorney. Because I know, for instance, I know certain judges that really dislike the power of attorney. What are some of the drawbacks? We know the positive, it helps you to go to the bank and handle the affairs. But, is this document ready to go when you sign it? Because some people don't understand that.
So that's a great point, and I'm happy you brought that up. So a power of attorney is one of the most powerful documents that you could sign on. And I think in 2011, they made it even more powerful because they changed the Florida statutes, and it is effective immediately upon execution. So you're picking someone who could pretty much step into your shoes and make binding decisions for you, and you do not have to be incapacitated for that to happen. So my words is choose wisely. Whoever you're picking to be that person, you're giving them a heck of a lot of power. So you want to make sure that you're picking someone who you trust. And there's revocation language in a power of attorney. So if that person is no longer trustworthy, you could revoke the authority that you have given them. So they won't be able to act on your behalf anymore. But there are ways that I work with my clients with this document. And if the person who you pick don't have the document, then they can't use the document, right? So I say lock it in your safe deposit box, and they could only really get access to it if something happened, you're in the hospital, and there's directions that you allow them to get into the safe deposit box. So those are some of the ways you could safeguard that document, but you have to make sure you're picking the right person to do that, because they could sell your house. They could go into your bank and take your money. So you got to make sure you choose wisely.
Very well.
Thank you so much. With that document, just don't choose one person, because the document would fail. If you choose one person, they are unable or unwilling to act when the time comes, or they're unavailable. If you don't have a backup person, then you don't have a document, and you're back in the very same situation that you were before. So I build my documents sometimes 3-4 levels deep with who could act as the original power of agent under the power of attorney, and various levels of successors.
Very good. Thank you so much. So I think this might be the final question because of time, but are there ways that we can avoid using our own assets to take care of ourselves in the event that we need in-home care, we can't perform our ADLs anymore. Can we do something about that?
Yes, you can. And that's one of the little niche areas of my practice. And I really enjoy doing that. And it's called long-term care planning. And there's certain things that you can do. A tool that I like to use a lot is public benefits. And the most popular public benefit is Medicaid. And Medicaid will pay for someone to come out to the house and help you. Carol mentioned ADLs. Those are activities of daily living. So like bathing yourself, feeding yourself, toileting, walking. And they will have someone come out and help you. You could qualify for a certain amount of hours. Or if you do need skilled nursing care, they will pick up a substantial amount of that bill, which is huge because an average, not great, but average nursing home in the state of Florida is about $15,000 per month. So the state would pay most of that for you if you qualify for Medicaid. And qualifying, it's really difficult because you can't have more than $2,000 in assets, which is not a lot of assets. So how do you do that? Well, there are loopholes, legal loopholes that you could protect some of these assets. Georgia mentioned before irrevocable trusts. That I use irrevocable trusts, right? Not many people use them, but I use them because it takes the money out of your control and kind of makes those assets not countable. So you could have $100,000 in an irrevocable trust and qualify for Medicaid if it's done properly. And then other things that you can do, Dr. Lissette, I'm sure be happy to help some of you, is get long-term care policies. At a young age, they're less expensive and there's so many options out there right now as well.
I want you to just stress, because I've seen so many horror stories. Just stress one more time the importance of avoiding this thing called a guardianship.
Okay.
Because I've seen so many situations where it could have been avoided.
Absolutely. And guardianships sometimes are necessary. So I'm not telling you it's always horrible, but it's just that it's so avoidable in most cases. A guardianship is when a court selects someone who is going to make decisions for you. Now, if you remember, I just talked about you could do that yourself. If you have a power of attorney or healthcare surrogate and you did that, then if you're unable to make decisions later on, you just fall back on those documents and your wishes are then executed. If you didn't do that, and then now we have a judge who doesn't know you and just had a fight with his wife that morning, picking someone who you would never, ever want to make decisions for you. And that could be a travesty, right? And under a guardianship, there's constant reporting requirement, there's court oversight. It's a very expensive process. And guys, we could all avoid this and just save our family enough heartache if you simply sit down, have the tough conversations, let's all plan when everything is good, and then we get our documents and we put them away, and we know if and when a crisis comes to our door, we could deal with a crisis and we're not running to court and dealing with attorneys. As much as I love attorneys, right? You'll be dealing with the crisis. So it's all about planning, and I caution you, please do not go online and get a form. Really this is not the time to do it yourself, because that's how I pay my mortgage, because these do-it-yourself forms, they fail and then litigation ensues, and you have me on one side and you have Georgia on the other side duking it out in court, and the money is coming out of your funds, right? So just go to an attorney. It's not very expensive to do advanced planning documents, get them done properly, get a will, get a power of attorney, get a healthcare surrogate. If you need a trust, and most of us don't, get yourself a trust. Talk about a living will. If you're dying, if you're on, you are in an irreversible stage of your you have a terminal illness and you only could be kept alive artificially. Do you want to be kept alive? Have those tough conversations, document them, get the documents, put them in your safe deposit box, and live your best life.
Very, very, very good. Thank you. I'm looking to see, I think there's a question. Do
Yes, so
you
you have
not,
a few questions,
go ahead.
Carol, and I'm not sure where it would go, but just going back a little bit, I think this happened during Miss Williams'
Mhm.
time. It's saying, in other words, properties or assets in Jamaica should be covered by a lawyer in Jamaica.
And that's for you, Georgia.
Wait. Yeah, I dropped that answer in the chat. I said if you have assets located in Jamaica, you should consult a Jamaica barred attorney. And there are some attorneys in Florida that also have a license to practice in Jamaica. I don't. I'm not licensed in Jamaica, unfortunately. So yes, if you have significant assets sitused in Jamaica, you need to speak to someone that understands those laws and can give you planning advice.
I
Okay.
think that catches it, Carol. So if you're ready for the next section, we can move on.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, so much, so much, Attorney Small. Go ahead and drop your contact information in the chat, please. And thank you.
Oh.
So now is the time when we're saying we've heard all of these wonderful information. What do we do next? Do we take ownership of what we've heard, or do we just let it go through one ear and come through the other? No, we will not. So what is the one thing you know you've been avoiding that you know you should get done? Maybe you're afraid, but we're telling you don't be afraid, take the leap. So go ahead and put that in the chat. And I'm looking to see if anybody is putting anything in the chat. The one thing based on what we've just talked about, right? What is the one thing that you know you should do? Somebody said review their trust, will trust, final plans, funding my trust, a trust, very good. So here is how we're going to start, right? So for those of you that have a will, absolutely amazing, right? Do you need to get it updated, right? When you look at your will, are the beneficiaries the same, right? Did somebody die that you left something in your will for? Then you need to update it, right? Look at your will. The person that you have in charge, do you still want them in charge, right? Do you have a trust? And if you do have a trust, when was the last time it was updated? Does it need to be updated? And most importantly, right, a trust is like a basket. Is there anything inside of the trust? So checklist, how we're going to get started. If you have a will, do you need to update it? If you have a trust, is it funded? For those of you that do not have a will, do not have a trust, you don't even know if you have any money, right? Because we need to kind of sit down, like Dr. Lisette said, and kind of figure out, where's my money, right? How am I going to retire? So one of the first things you can do if you don't have any of these things is do an inventory, right? I've had clients that come to me and they have their assets in 10 different banks, right? They don't know who the beneficiaries are. So the first thing you want to do is make a list of what your assets are and where are they and who are the beneficiaries, right? So that's the first thing. The next step is, do you know who you would want to be in charge? So for those that already have a will, already have a trust, hopefully you also have a power of attorney, right? They go together. It's a comprehensive plan. Do you have a healthcare surrogate designation? And that's the person that's going to make decisions for your health. Do you have a living will? I've only had one person that told me they don't want a living will. In other words, they want to have all efforts done. So even if they're bleeding out of every orifice, they still want to have CPR. You have that choice to a certain degree. But anyway, do your loved ones, do they know your wishes, right? So you have 4 children, you want to be cremated, but you never had a conversation with anybody about that, right? But you might have told your brother, So making sure that everybody knows what you would like to have done, right? So that's the those are the questions, right? The real life question. Do you have enough money to retire on? Are you going to be able to stay in your home? Or are you going to have to go to an ALF or a nursing home? So my question to you is, remember what we said when we first got started, right? Information is out there. We can ask ChatGPT, we can ask Gemini. There is information everywhere. But the seriousness of this is, are you going to take a step to do something with what we've heard today, right? So what is that one thing? And go ahead and drop it in the chat, please. What are you going to do within the next 30 days, right? To make sure that you're protecting your legacy, you're protecting your finances. You know, we're not living in debt and not having any money, right, for our future. We have to take action. So I feel like I'm preaching, but I'm really not. I'm really, really serious. All right. We're really serious. I heard somebody just say, review my long-term plan, consult with my estate. Beautiful, beautiful. So at this time of the segment, I just want to ask, are there any other questions for either Dr. Lissette, Attorney Williams, Attorney Small? You can drop that in the chat and either myself or Yvette will be looking. And I'm going to go back while you're thinking about it and see if there's anything that any questions that I did not answer.
I have a question for Dr. Lissette.
Awesome.
I can ask it. So, health insurance prices are double una joint, okay? Is there an option that instead of me paying this $1,000 a month for health insurance, I can put the money somewhere and have it invested, kind of like my own private insurance?
You can have your monies invested like on private insurance, but this is not health insurance. So, but you can still have your funds growing in a way that you could have the funds. But the health insurance it works together. You know, I don't do the health side, I do the life side, but I do have a team of us on my team that do the health side. And health is interesting when it comes to the costs. So it depends on this how you want to do your strategy. If you say, you know what, I just really think that's a huge waste for me to have it there, put it in products that grow. And most of the time, those products that grow, you don't have to pay taxes on it if it's done right. On it again. Or our investment strategies, or then in maybe real estate, whatever, you say, well, I'll just sell that. It depends again on who you are, how much you have, and how you want to save. Some people like the comfort of knowing that your health insurance is there for them in that time. But yes, there are different strategies, and it depends on risk tolerance. It depends on how you're planning and how we're stacking this this portfolio, and then we see what can happen. But yes, we can save on our retirement, on our health insurance, but we have to make this an individual thing because it depends. It depends on what your risk tolerance is. I have a lot of people saying, I just love to have my health insurance. And some people who say, no, I just want my money to build. I will sell a house, I will sell this, I'll sell that if something happens. So it depends on the strategy.
Thank you.
Very well. Someone said in the chat, do a list of all the above. It's overwhelming. So again, I'm going to reiterate, it is overwhelming, but one step at a time, right? So the first step might be just to make the appointment with one of the estate planning attorneys or with Dr. Lissette. Because when you make the appointment, they will then guide you, right? And tell you, and you might need to take baby steps, but guess what, y'all? Even if it's baby steps, take a step is what we're saying, right? Take a step. Someone asked for the contact information for all the panelists. We've dropped them in the chat. Maybe we can send it out to all the registered persons that registered, or if you want to drop the information in again, that would be good. And I see it. Very good, very good. I am looking to see who's on our life change. We need check it. Okay, I'm looking in Just see, we need a full session. We need a full session on finding healthcare. I agree with you. And it doesn't seem like it's getting better, is it? So one of the things I guess we got to do too is just make sure we're keeping ourselves healthy. So without me reiterating and feeling like I don't want to beat a dead horse, if you do nothing, the state will decide for you. So I encourage you, follow up with one of the professionals. And again, I encourage you, most of us came from Jamaica. My mom came with nothing. So again, reach out to Dr. Lisette. Thank you so much for engaging with us and for allowing us to serve you. We are Jamaican Women of Florida, and we love each other. All right, it's time for Miss Yvette. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. You did an amazing job moderating today's session. Thank you to the panel. I think just from the interaction in the chat, you can tell people wanted more and more information. But just so that you know that all the contact information have been reshared and reshared, so please reach out. And what was very telling was when Khaled said they spend so much time supporting and building wealth for other people that do not look like us. So this is the time for us to change that. We can't say we don't have the information, but now we also have access because we know that Miss Williams is available. We know Dr. Lisette is available, and we know Miss Small is available as well. So let's take advantage of that and change that narrative that if we're to bring them back next time, they can say we have started seeing people that look like us and even sound like us, because that's important. All right. So we're going to go ahead and share what's coming up in our next fireside chat, which is going to be July 23rd. I would encourage you right now to take out your phone and scan this to register so that you don't miss that one. It's going to be about positioned to profit from financial clarity to multiple income streams. So you heard the attorneys and the educator talk about protecting that wealth, but we want to help you grow it as well. So this is an opportunity for you to do that. And we're having a really good session for you to. So go ahead and scan and register for it. Few other events that are coming up as it relates to Jamaican Women of Florida. We have our Ladies Night, which is tomorrow night. If you're not a part of our organization, it's also an opportunity for you to join and mingle with us and get to know the ladies, but also get to know a little bit more about our organization and what we do and what is our mission. And maybe you'll be impressed or feel like it pulls at your heartstring and become a part of us. So we welcome you to join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Valencia's Caribbean Fusion Restaurant. The next thing that we have is our Independence fundraiser. If you're Jamaican or from the Caribbean, you know that it's a big party when it comes on to our independence. So we have a Sweet and Dandy Meet School Days. Gonna be a big old thing. Dress in your school uniform or your independence uniform, which is Jamaican colors, and be at R&D Sports Bar on the 31st to have a good old time. Because you know where Caribbean people are, we know how to dance and make sure that we have a swell time. So we encourage you to join. Tickets are actually on Eventbrite right now, so feel free to go ahead and make your purchase there. The next thing for us is our JWOF Back to School Drive. That's between July 20th and August 29th. And also our health fair, which coming up August 29th, which is going to be in Miramar. And the last thing, we always want to improve what we do. And so while we get great comments and feedback in the chat that this was enlightening, we also want to get more granular feedback that can help us improve what we bring and how we bring it. So please take a moment, scan the QR code and give us your feedback. I think there are 2 to 3 questions, maybe take you 2 seconds or 3 the most, but give us your feedback so that we can look at it and see what revisions or improvements we can make for the next one. We also want to hear that it was good too. So if it was good, tell us it was good. But if there are opportunities for growth, please let us know. So this is the time again, I'll say thank you to all. If you have scanned the QR code and take the feedback and give us your feedback, feel free to go ahead and just log off. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month when we bring a different panel into the space to continue to educate our group of people. Thank you so much.